please go to finneganswakeNotes.net for a full explanation of the text, and please don't forget to hit the like button.
Welcome to episode 25 of the Reading Finnegans Wake in 200 Sessions podcast, where we analyze Finnegans Wake by James Joyce 3 pages at a time. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment to support us. Okay, so let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into pages 81 through 84 of Finnegans Wake. This is, well, it's where Joyce gives us the fourth version, you could say, of that central assault story, the big one.
Yeah, and it's arguably the most bizarre version yet. It's really a pivotal few pages because what starts as this chaotic street fight just completely shifts shape.
Right, it morphs, doesn't it, from physical violence into, some kind of weird financial deal.
Exactly. It becomes this elaborate negotiation, and then almost out of nowhere, it wraps up with a very formal, even politically charged police report. It's quite the journey in just 3 pages.
So our mission today, then, is really to track that transformation. We need to figure out how Joyce is weaving together all these threads. You've got Dublin geography, deep Irish history, echoes of global wars, even really complex ideas about language.
All while basically describing a brawl, maybe over a stolen bottle of poitín. Maybe it's something else entirely.
Yeah, we're trying to find that point where the fists stop flying and the accounting starts, so to speak, where violence just isn't enough anymore.
Precisely. We're digging for those nuggets of insight hidden in the language, trying to nail down what exactly was exchanged physically, financially, maybe even symbolically when these two characters finally sort of, face off.
And the answer seems to be everything.
Pretty much. Everything gets thrown into the pot. History, money, identity, it's all being transacted right there on the page.
Okay, let's start where Joyce usually does, the place itself. The setting feels like it dictates everything that happens. It's described as hard by the house there, on a dissolute and a bouquet cold spot.
Yeah.
That's loaded, right?
Oh, absolutely loaded. Hard by the house there. That immediately signals, for anyone who knows Dublin's past, the location near the Thingmote.
The Viking assembly mound. Their sort of parliament.
Exactly, near modern-day Suffolk Street. So right away, this isn't just any street corner. It's a foundational site of, conquest, lawmaking, power struggles. The conflict is happening on historically charged ground.
And the ground itself has layers. Joyce says it was Rupestric then, resurfaced that now is.
Yeah, that's such a great image. Rupestric, rocky, ancient terrain. But now it's paved over, modernized, maybe like O'Connell Street. It's a perfect metaphor for history, isn't it? The old, rough foundations are still there under the new surface.
So the conflict, even on paved ground, still has those ancient, rocky roots of betrayal, maybe.
I think that's exactly the implication. And the sense of being on the edge is strong, too. Despite being, right in the city center near the tram stops, the text says it's versts and versts from true civilization.
Which is funny. Using a Russian measurement versts to measure distance from the Dublin tram stops is the height of civilization.
Yeah. It's classic Joyce, isn't it? That ironic twist. He globalizes it with the Russian term, but the benchmark for civilization is utterly local. Nelson's pillar, the crams. If you're not right there, you're basically in the wilderness. It's a sharp little jab at Dublin's self-perception.
And this theme of betrayal, hinted at by the Viking site, just gets hammered home immediately. We get that line, Luttrell sold if Luttrell bought in the saddle of the Brennans.
Right, that's incredibly dense. Henry Luttrell, the Irish soldier, infamous for betraying the Jacobite cause, basically handing Limerick over to the Williamites in 1691, he literally sold out.
And didn't he meet a violent end himself later?
He did. His skull was fractured in an attack years later. So the line connects betrayal directly to violence and, significantly, to a head injury, which is a recurring motif in the wake.
And this happens, location-wise, in the saddle of the Brennans. What's that about?
A saddle is a pass between hills, classic highwayman territory, and Brennan's points straight to Willie Brennan, the famous 18th century Irish outlaw Brennan on the moor.
Okay, so the whole setting anchored also by mentions of Malpas Place and Malpas High Hill, which is Delaney Hill, is just soaked in danger, ambush, historical treachery.
Exactly. The ground itself suggests that any deal made here, any interaction, is likely founded on deceit or violence. It sets the stage perfectly for the characters.
Speaking of which, the attacker, he's introduced as a Kropotkin. That sounds like a contradiction right away.
It is. It mashes together two huge but very different forces. Kropottric, the holy mountain in Mayo, a major pilgrimage site.
And Peter Kropotkin, the Russian anarchist thinker, the revolutionary.
Right. So the attacker is this small but determined figure full of truly native pluck, but he embodies both that deep, almost spiritual Irish identity and a kind of international revolutionary zeal. He's a rebel-pilgrim, if you like.
And his opponent is just the Adversary, with a capital A.
Yeah, very mythic. It clearly references the devil in the legend of St. Martin of Tours, the one who swore eternal opposition. But then Joyce undercuts it immediately. The attacker seems to mistake this potentially cosmic adversary for someone like James Oglethorpe, the philanthropist who founded Georgia, or even Old Parr, that famously long-lived Englishman.
So the attacker thinks he's just fighting for plunder's sake, reducing the epic to petty theft.
Pretty much. The motive seems to shrink from a grand struggle to just simple greed. But the language he uses is anything but simple. It's full of sacrilegious languages.
Like threatening to canonize the BYBR's life out of him.
Exactly. You know what the blanks stand for? Bloody bugger, a really strong insult. But canonize? It suggests firing cannons, destruction, but also Catholic canonization, making someone a saint.
So total destruction and twisted sainthood at the same time.
That's the core of the linguistic game here. Utter absurdity and contradiction packed into one word. And then there's the threat to challenge their hemispheres.
Ah, the HCE motif again. Hemispheres, but misspelled to include HCE.
Precisely. It connects the fight directly to Humphrey Chimpton Earwicker, our protagonist, while also referencing the brain's hemispheres. The conflict is happening inside HCE's head as much as it is on the street. He's fighting the opponent's very way of thinking.
And right after all these curses, this violent language, there's this sudden, weird shift to piety.
Yeah, it's jarring but typical. A parody of Kathleen penance pops up. 3 Patreknosters and a couplet of Hail Marys. Paternosters and Hail Marys, but completely twisted.
So even in the middle of blasphemy, the religious framework just snaps back into place.
It seems inescapable in this context. Even when being sacrilegious, the pattern of ritual, of penance is automatic. Violence and attempted redemption are locked in this cycle.
And the weapon ties it all together, this oblong bar with which he usually broke furnitures.
Yes, it's that recurring weapon motif. The hard, straight object crowbar, shillelagh, hurley, revolver, even phallic symbols like the toboggan poop. It's always the instrument of the conflict, the fall, the injury.
And Joyce even signals this isn't new, right? He says the border incident pre-repeated itself.
Exactly. He underlines it for us. This isn't the first time this has happened. It's just the latest loop in an endless cycle of assault and confrontation.
So the fight begins, armed with this symbolic stick, and immediately Joyce zooms out from Dublin to, like, the entire world stage, the clash of empires and opposites.
Yeah, the parallels he draws are crucial. He compares it to Nipolono engaging Wailing Tao.
Which sounds like Napoleon versus Wellington.
The classic European rivalry, yeah. But the names also clearly suggest Japan, Nippon, versus China, way maybe, or just a generic Chinese name. So it's East versus West, old European wars, modern Asian conflicts. It's all the same fundamental struggle playing out here.
And then there's that very specific echo of the assassination theme from earlier in the book. Dvoretsky is trying to reconnoiter the General Bukalev.
Right, that's the whole Buckley shooting the Russian general motif again, referencing General Barbakov, who was assassinated in Finland. But Joyce mixes it up with this mythical Irish soldier Buckley, and using the word razzia, an Algerian term for a military raid.
It frames this personal fight as a kind of formalized, almost colonial violence.
Exactly. The street brawl is just a tiny version of a large-scale military campaign, and the physics of the fight itself are described in this grand way. It happens under the all-in rules around the book safe.
The book safe, the Bible, or a literal safe.
Could be both, but the description of the motion is key. The cradle rocking equally to one and oppositely from the other on its law of capture and recapture.
That sounds like Newton's third law, action and reaction.
Precisely. He elevates this scuffle to a fundamental law of physics. Equal and opposite forces, perfectly balanced, rocking back and forth like a cradle, suggesting infancy, endless repetition, eternal return. It's cosmic.
Beautifully cosmic description, which is then immediately undercut by comparing the fighters to turnips, purple top and Tipperary Swede.
Chuckles slightly. Yeah, it's brilliant, isn't it? They're rutabagas, Swedish turnips. The purple top might suggest royalty, something superior, while the Tipperary Swede sounds more common, rustic, from Tipperary maybe.
So they're opposites, but they're both, well, root vegetables.
Exactly. Equally mundane, equally maybe a bit thick. He brings the whole epic struggle, Napoleon, Wellington, cosmic laws, crashing down to a fight between two turnips. It's incredibly deflationary and funny.
And they get more specific roles, too.
Yeah.
The taller man and the miner carrying the worm.
Right. The taller man, probably tall, like James Taller, a famous giant, he seems to be the instigator. The miner, maybe minor as in younger, or literally someone working underground, like Shem the penman, perhaps. But critically, he's got the worm.
The coil from a still, for making illicit whiskey.
Yes, the portable distillery for making poitin. So this fight isn't just abstract aggression, it's very likely about smuggled booze. Contraband.
Which leads directly into that really poignant line, linking the fight to the cost of war. Let me go, Potheen! I hardly knew ye!
Yeah, that's a direct hit. It evokes the song Johnny I Hardly Knew Ye, that famous anti-war ballad about a soldier coming home, completely maimed, no legs, no arms, no eyes.
So this drunken scrap in Dublin suddenly carries the weight of all that physical devastation from war.
Exactly. It connects back to other motifs in the book, like dismemberment, the headless chicken a stag. The personal fight contains the trauma of wider conflict.
Okay, so after all this, there's a pause. A solstitial pause for refreshment. That's brilliant phrasing.
Isn't it solstitial, like the solstice, a turning point in the year, as a cosmic shift, but also refreshment, clearly playing on the Coca-Cola slogan, the pause that refreshes. It's high cosmology and low advertising mashed together.
And in that pause, the whole thing shifts. Violence stops, and the financial demands start.
And the language gets even denser, if that's possible. The tall man, the taller, uses what Joyce calls vermicular speech.
Worm-like, or vernacular.
Both, I think, and maybe even hinting at vermin. But crucially, it sounds like Chinese pidgin English. He makes this formal demand. Was 6 Victolios 15 pidgin take off a you, tell he me, slung fella, by picky-pocky 10 to foul months behind aside?
Wow, okay, let's break that down. 6 Victolios, 15 pidgin, the amount of £6, 15 shillings.
Seems so. But the currencies are key. Victolios, that sounds like Victorian pounds, or maybe Victorian statutes, representing the old British rule, the established order.
And pidgin.
That likely refers to the hen or dove on the new Irish Free State coins introduced under de Valera. So the money itself represents a clash. Old colonial pounds versus new Irish shillings. The theft is financial and political.
So £6, 15 shillings in this symbolic contested currency. And it was taken by picky-pocky, just pickpocketing.
Apparently so. Simple theft, committed by the slong fella.
Slong fella. Tall fellow, obviously. But who does that really point to?
It's layered. It's the tall man in the fight, sure. But it strongly echoes Strongbow, the Norman invader who really kicked off the English presence in Ireland.
The historical conqueror.
Yes, but it also clearly evokes Eamon de Valera, Ireland's dominant political leader for much of the 20th century, whose nickname was the Longfellow.
So the thief is somehow both the English invader and the figurehead of Irish independence.
Exactly. It completely muddies the waters of who the real culprit is. Is it historical English oppression or modern Irish leadership? Or both? The lines are deliberately blurred.
And the accusation is made in this weird third-person pidgin style, addressing someone superior. Excuse me. It formalizes the debt, moves it from just a fight to a legal or financial claim.
Precisely. The physical assault phase seems over, and now we're into the realm of debt, accusation, and negotiation.
And the shift happens so fast. After all that buildup, the Kaleido-banter and Severe tries to convert.
Converting currency or religious conversion, maybe even rugby conversions.
Right. After all that, the whole thing deflates because the intruder just drops his weapon.
That seems to be the turning point. The weapon is described as a wooden affair in the shape of a Webley.
A wooden-handled Webley revolver.
Looks like it. But Woden also clearly points to Woden, or Odin, the chief Norse Anglo-Saxon god. And Joyce adds that Woden yielded without a struggle to Christ. So the dropping of the weapon is like the pagan force giving way, allowing for a kind of Christian truce or negotiation to begin. Violence is surrendered.
And this moment of stalemate where they can't fight anymore is compared to that famous Dublin legend, the stuck skeletons.
Yes. The cat and the rat found mummified behind the organ pipes in Christchurch Cathedral's crypt right where Strongbow, that swang fella, is supposedly buried. They chased each other in, got stuck, and both died.
A perfect symbol for these two fighters. Stuck in opposition, unable to win.
Exactly. It represents the impasse. Neither can defeat the other, so the only way forward is through talk, through negotiation, which is what happens next.
The intruder, who's now called Ned, like Ned of the Hill, the highwayman, keeping that outlaw theme going.
Always the outlaw.
He completely flips his story. He stops being the aggressor demanding money and asks the other guy, the change companion, who holds the strong box.
The strongbox again linking to Strongbow's crypt, the cathedral's wealth.
He asks him for change for a 10-pound note.
Which, as you said, was a huge amount of money back then. A fortune. This crisp note, a tin-pan crackler, suddenly reveals the attacker isn't just some destitute thug. He's carrying serious cash.
And he's the change, supposedly, to pay back that original debt, the 6 Vicks that he claimed was taken from the man of samples.
The traveling salesman, yeah. Who is also called the man of sorrows, a clear reference to Christ. So now the attacker is painting his earlier aggression as some kind of righteous quest to settle a debt owed to a Christ figure. It's an incredibly convoluted justification.
He's trying to make violence look noble, but the other guy, Billy with the bull, doesn't seem convinced.
Billy with the Bull, that's another loaded name. It references Billy and the Bull, a notorious legless beggar in 19th century Dublin who apparently strangled people.
Grim.
Very grim. But it also might suggest Parnell, perhaps his hesitancy. Billy replies with this stutter. Woo, mo-ho moment. He denies having change for the tenor.
But then he does something unexpected. He offers a small loan, an advance.
Yeah, 4-and-7pence, 4 shillings and 7pence. A tiny amount compared to the £10.
And the reason he gives is amazing, because it's Yuletide or Judenfest.
He's trying so hard to be neutral, right? Covering both Christmas and Hanukkah, trying to avoid any religious offense. It's this moment of slightly nervous, calculated generosity.
But Joyce immediately taints it. This small act of charity gets linked to phrases like mad nuts and hatter's hairs.
And this is where it gets really chilling, historically. Mad nuts is slang for crazy, sure. Hatter's hairs obviously brings in the Mad Hatter, Lewis Carroll. But the sound...
Hatter's hairs sounds like Herr Hitler.
Exactly. And scholars have shown Joyce actually revised this passage to strengthen that hint. It connects this small, perhaps misguided act of generosity in a Dublin side street to the rise of Nazism, the mad Nazi, the political insanity brewing in Europe. Even Hitler's distinctive hairstyle seems hinted at later with Hitler's hairs.
Wow. So giving a small loan is equated with enabling madness on a massive scale. That's dark.
It's a devastating link. But for the moment, the loan works. The starving gunman, suddenly he's starving again, calms right down. He's mollified by this tiny amount, probably just thinking about the whiskey it can buy, the JJ&S, John Jameson and Son.
And in his relief, he swears this absolutely over-the-top oath to repay the debt by all his Lord's Porsenal.
Lars Porsena, the Etruscan king who besieged Rome, famous for the story of Horatius at the bridge and known for binding oaths. So he's invoking ancient Roman history and reliability.
And the penalty if he fails? The thorn tree of Sheol might ramify up his Sheolfon. That sounds painful.
It's incredibly extreme. The thorn tree of Sheol refers to the Zaquim tree from the Quran, which grows in hell and bears bitter, agonizing fruit for the damned.
So he's basically saying, may the tree of hell grow up my... Well, Sheolfon sounds like shofar, the ram's horn, but also pretty clearly like his backside.
Right. It's the most extreme vow of self-torment imaginable, sworn over a debt of 4 shillings and 7pence. Absolute hyperbole.
And Joyce immediately puts a philosophical frame around this. The Nietzschean glossary.
Yeah, Nietzschean, or maybe just night language. And the gloss talks about a priori and a posteriori roots. It connects the oath, the debt, the whole interaction to fundamental philosophical questions about language and truth. Is meaning inherent a priori, or does it only come from experience a posteriori?
So even the swearing is part of this larger exploration of how language works, how reality is constructed.
Absolutely. But then, back to the practical, the gunman is now thrilled. He sees this tiny loan as the chance of a lifetime and plans an epic pub crawl.
Oysters, Dunbank Pearl Mothers, and whiskey at 4 specific Dublin inns.
And the road is significant. He starts way out at the Rude Cow in Tallite, southwest Dublin, then moves east to the docks, the Good Woman at Ringsend, then south along the coast to Conway's Inn in wealthy Blackrock.
And finishes where?
At Adam and Eve's in Quantity Street. Which brings it right back to original sin, the beginning. But Quantity Street also sounds like Quality Street chocolates, the sacred and the commercial mixed up again. Maybe suggests funeral fare to completing a cycle.
It's a whole journey through Dublin's geography and maybe its soul. And in this moment of truce, he recognizes the guy who gave him the loan as Delaney.
Patrick Delaney, yes. One of the Phoenix Park Invincibles, the assassins. Crucially, Delaney turned state's evidence, becoming an informer, which helped bring down Parnell. So the benefactor is also a figure of betrayal.
And he notices Delaney's blanch patch on the bony part.
That white patch on the bald head bony part might also hint at Napoleon Bonaparte again, linking this Dublin figure to imperial power, maybe failed power, or just a sign of aged vulnerability.
So the truce is made between these two deeply compromised figures. How is it sealed?
With a physical gesture. The pax in embrace, or poku-puxi. The kiss of peace, like in Mass, or the pogmo thoin may be twisted, or a foster brother's kiss. It ratifies the Torgan Truce, a truce born from battering or the treating to Cognac, referencing the War of the League of Cognac, another historical conflict resolved by treaty.
So violence resolves into a contract, sealed with a kiss and the promise of drinks, based on a tiny, tainted loan between an outlaw and a traitor.
That's pretty much the absurdity of it, yeah.
Okay, so truce declared, kiss exchanged. Does the attacker stick around?
Absolutely not. He immediately levanted off, basically absconded, confirming the whole agreement was probably nonsense from his side. He turns his fez, menial straight.
A fez, like a Turkish hat, and Menai Strait, the channel in Wales.
Exactly. The fez has no clear front or back, suggesting ambiguity, shiftiness. Menai Strait may be crossing borders. He heads towards Moscow, maybe Mecca, definitely eastward, and disappears with tubular turbulence.
Tubular turbulence, like the tubular bridge over the Menai Strait.
Yeah.
Or maybe turbulence, chaos.
Both, probably. Also sounds like Jubal Early, the Confederate general, bringing in the American Civil War again. He leaves in a state of chaos, spitting his teeths en routes.
En route, or showing his roots, his true nature. And spitting teeth suggests he didn't get away entirely unscathed.
Seems like it. Despite the truce, there was still some damage. And here's the crucial bit. He leaves having secured 7 and 4 in Danegild.
Wait a minute. The loan was 4 shillings and 7 pence. 4 and 7. He leaves with 7 and 4.
Exactly. The numbers are reversed. He leaves with more than he was loaned. The transaction is symbolically flipped. It shows the complete interchangeability of the roles attacker, victim, debtor, creditor.
And calling it Danegeld. The protection money paid to the Vikings.
Yes. It implies the victim essentially paid the attacker not to attack him further, or perhaps paid for the privilege of having been attacked. The cost of peace is levied on the one who suffered the aggression.
Where's the attacker headed now?
To a crow-plucking appointment, which means settling a score, dealing with something unpleasant. And Joyce places this appointment between Peerage and the Little Horn.
Pea Ridge, the Civil War battle, and Little Bidehorn, Custer's last stand. So even his exit is framed by major historical conflicts.
Always. The personal is always cosmic and historical. Then the focus shifts completely to the victim, this poor Delaney, the defender.
How's he doing?
He's got plum-sized contusiums and a bruised coccygus, the tailbone, which Joyce connects elsewhere to Alisala, an Arabic concept of authenticity or origin. So his suffering somehow authenticates him.
But he bore up wonderfully, all of it.
Yes, resilient. And he goes straight to the authorities to report the crime, to the flabbergaze of the whole lab.
A laboratory, or maybe the police station, the watchhouse.
Likely the watchhouse, yeah, probably the one in Vicar Lane. And the way he makes the report is incredibly political.
How so?
He gives the paddy banners the police, but obviously referencing Irish flags too, a military salute, and addresses the report as for his exilices the O'Daffy.
O'Daffy. That has to be Ian O'Duffy, the fascist leader, former police commissioner.
No doubt about it. By naming O'Duffy, Joyce frames this entire incident, this report of a common assault, within the context of 1930s Irish fascism and political alignment. He calls it a nobler Roman review.
Referencing the blue shirts' Roman salute.
Precisely. The personal suffering is being reported up the chain, framed within this grand, quasi-fascist, Roman-inspired political structure. The victim is aligning his experience with a specific, controversial ideology.
What about his injuries? He hopes for a fomentation of poppy heads.
An opium poultice, yeah. For the pain, probably the head injury. But the key evidence he presents isn't medical, it's visual and symbolic. Diagonally red-crossed, non-fatal mammalian blood on his white face.
The red diagonal cross on white, St. Patrick's saltire, the Irish flag again.
Exactly. His own blood has stained the flag on his face. This is presented as proof positive of the seriousness of his character. His victimhood becomes proof of his national identity and his moral standing.
And despite maybe having some hitter's hairs pulled out,
there's that Hitler hint again, maybe crossed with Colt revolvers.
Despite that, his body is fundamentally okay.
Yeah.
Not one of the 206 bones and 501 muscles in his torso was a whit the horse for her whacking.
That structural integrity is key. 206 bones is the standard adult skeleton. He's intact. It echoes that psalm about the righteous man that none of his bones will be broken. He endured, He remained whole, Christ-like in his resilience.
Oh, wait. He remained whole despite her whacking. Who is her? The whole fight was between two men.
Ah, that's the final twist, isn't it? After this entire detailed account of a male-on-male conflict, negotiation, betrayal, the final testing blow, the whacking, that proved his resilience is attributed to a female agent.
The section just ends with that question. Her who?
Yeah, her who, like Herr who.
Wow.
In German, maybe, or just who is she? The male conflict seemed to resolve itself, however messily, through truce and money. But the physical suffering, the thing that authenticates the victim and gives him his standing, seems to come from this mysterious, unnamed her.
So the whole cycle of male violence in politics might be secondary to some other female force. Hashtag tag outro.
You know, what really stands out when you pull back is how these few pages act like a kind of fractal. They contain everything. You've got Viking Dublin, 17th century betrayal, Napoleonic Wars, American conflicts, 20th century fascism, Newtonian physics, Catholic ritual, all packed into one messy street fight.
It really shows how, for Joyce, that single event contains the DNA of all human history, all those cycles of conflict and, well, attempts at resolution.
Absolutely. The local fight is the universal story of civilizations rising and falling, repeated endlessly.
And for anyone trying to get a handle on Joyce, decoding that language is key, isn't it? Seeing how he uses things like pidgin English or those references to Victorian pounds versus Irish coins or Danegeld to load a simple argument about what, £6 into this huge statement about power, history, and money.
It's linguistic alchemy, really, turning base conflict into verbal gold. But that core tension, as you pointed out, is still there at the end. The fight is seemingly between two aspects of HCE, the attacker and the defender.
They fight. They pause, they negotiate, they make a deal based on money and historical precedent, sealed with a kiss. The male cycle seems complete, if absurd.
But then that final note, the critical physical trial, the whacking that proves the victim's character and resilience, the thing that allows him to make his political report that's attributed to her who.
Which leaves us, and leaves you, the listener, with a pretty big question, I think. If all that male conflict, all the history, the politics, the finance, just resolves into another loop, another transaction, what power does this mysterious female force, this her who, actually hold?
Is she the source of the real transformative suffering, or perhaps the agent of a different kind of justice, something outside that endless male cycle of debt and violence? Maybe think about how her who connects to other female figures in the wake, like Anna Livia or Kate the housekeeper figures, who are both protective and potentially destructive.
Something to chew on. What role does her who play in this endlessly repeating story? We'll leave you with that thought until next time.